Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And it's time for another daily dose of dismal Disney.
Yes.
We're gonna talk about how Disney has gone from being an empire to a yard sale.
Yeah, it's interesting. So we talked about this kind of yesterday, and we touched on it the day before about some of the sales that might be happening. So Bob Iger was at this Allen and Company Media and Technology Conference where apparently everybody has to wear khakis. And during this event, he made comments that seemed to imply that they're considering selling their linear, non-core networks such as ABC, which we mentioned yesterday, FX, and Freeform. And it might be looking for a partner for ESPN.
Yeah, so this is really interesting because that used to be core to their business. We talked about in other videos how like the Disney Channel especially used to be so core to their business. ABC was core to their business. Now they're like, yeah, we don't even really need these anymore.
We're just going, and then it's going to be funny because what is it, GMA on ABC? They use it to show their shit all the time.
The late shows they do, it's always, Disney promotion. They've been doing that since the 90s. They used to do, the sitcoms, all the TGIF sitcoms. Everybody used to go to Disney World.
Lately anymore, Good Morning America is like their basic promotion arm that's straight up, all that. But then when they do interviews, they go to NBC? CNBC.
Because it's a financial, they're probably trying to give the appearance of looking more unbiased. Like, we're going to go to a competitor's financial network here. But yeah, like Good Morning America anymore. It's like, if there's a new ride, it's going to be like, here's the hosts on the new Tron coaster. Yee-haw.
That's what they did do and stuff. So,
book a trip.
Apparently, according to Bloomberg, I love this. They're calling it going from building an empire to a Disney yard sale because Iger, came in and they're like, first he was just about building and now he has to sell stuff off. They also mentioned, which we mentioned previously, the likely sale of their Hotstar and stuff over in India because it did not do well. So they've been going in on this with the streaming services. It's not working. They have the looming sale of the rest of Hulu shares to Comcast they have to buy. And that's going to be at least $27 billion, apparently. And they have to come up with all this money. And they did the $5.5 billion in cuts. So now they need more money. My question is, where's the $17 billion that they're going to challenge DeSantis in Florida for Walt Disney World?
Well, maybe they're hoping they're going to sell ABC for a really, really good price.
They said for all three networks, it'd probably be $8 billion.
Yeah.
So there's no, and then, so.
Star Wars.
I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't know how they can sell, unless they sold Lucasfilm off whole cloth. I don't think they can.
Yeah, and it's damaged goods now. I mean, that's the thing. There was this rumor about them selling Star Wars, selling Lucasfilm, or putting together packages for all the stuff they could potentially sell. And everything is so damaged. I mean, you're talking, this is like a shitty yard sale. Like we do yard sales, we go to yard sales, right?
Oh yeah, I love yard sales.
And I'm a big
yard sale proponent.
When you pull up to a nice house, chances are the stuff at the yard sale is going to be pretty nice. You pull up to a not so nice house, it's going to be junk.
Not always. If you're looking for old toys, that's not the case.
But I'm just saying, this is basically Disney stuff at this point is used, beaten, worn, stained. Mystery stains all over Star Wars.
I don't think it's mystery. Well, yeah, maybe.
We don't know what's going on there. But it's like all the stuff is in decline. So would it actually be worth it? And who has the money? That's the thing, too. Who has the money?
And we're going to talk about that. That's one of the questions that they're bringing up. They said that when it comes to ABC, FX, and Freeform, they're worried that they aren't going to get much out of it because they said that the likelihood of having a buyer for that would most likely be some other group, kind of like what we saw with the CW.
Yeah.
They said that it would fetch about $8 billion for the TV businesses, and they said that it would likely offset the cost of acquiring Hulu, but the potential suitors for the linear TV networks are financial entities like private equity firms that would milk them for cash as they decline into obscurity. Like Star Wars and Disney? I don't see how that's any different than Disney.
Yeah, what's interesting is I had a friend send over a link this morning, and we're not going to do a separate video on it, but they're like Toon Boom, which is what all the animation studios are using for 2D animation.
Yeah.
They just got sold to a private equity firm, which means that it's not going to have any long-term value, probably because they're looking at the landscape and they're like, is anybody going to be greenlighting any more animation anytime soon that's going to use this software?
Well, it's an equity company. It's an equity company because their goal is to make money, which means they're going to raise the prices and they're going to do a bunch of,
Totally kill it.
Yes, so they kill it, which is what they do. And then move on to the next. It's like Independence Day, you know? So they're talking here about the problem too is if Disney wants to sell these networks, they might have an issue because when they have other deals tied to them, like NBC or ABC, I mean, for example, has the NBA rights. And FX keeps supplying programs for Hulu, and they said that, you know, which they plan to fold into Disney Plus, which we said.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're talking about that. They said that with ESPN, there's more interested parties, but they're talking like a partner, and they're saying, you know, Apple or Fanatics, something like that might want to partner with them. But I'm interested to see what they do here because they're going to owe at least $29.5 billion to Comcast come next year. Their savings, like all the job cuts, was part of that $5.5 billion in savings to streaming. And then we have, you know, if they sold these, they might get like $8 billion out of it. So that's a far cry from $27.5 billion. And if they have the money that they can be like, we're going to put $17 billion into the Walt Disney World parks. I guess they're going to have to pull that one out if they have it sitting around and use it to pay off their debt to Comcast.
Yeah, that was all posturing. That whole thing.
I know it was posturing.
Yeah,
that whole out of nowhere.
That whole thing with DeSantis was like, well, it'd be a real shame if we. This is like a person that complains about has never been to like a restaurant, leaves a nasty Yelp review about the restaurant, and I've seen business owners actually call them out and be like, hey, yeah, we weren't actually open when you said that you came in, and we don't actually serve that food here. So you're just leaving a nasty review. It's almost like, well, we're not going to spend our $17 billion, and it's kind of like you don't have $17 billion to spend, Bob. You don't have it.
And then they said that here. I thought this was interesting. It said management chased streaming subscribers at unsustainably low prices to goose the launch of Disney Plus in 2019.
What?
Which was Bob Iger, and is now seeking to raise prices without alienating customers. Actually, the idea of doing the paid ads that was under Chapek, but the unsustainable, you know, and they were giving away for free with every this and that and everything else was giving away free Disney Plus subscriptions. Yep. You could pay one low rate to get 3 years and all that, which just finally lapsed. That was all under Iger. And they said Iger put a for sale sign up during the interview with CNBC in Sun Valley, Idaho, where they were doing that summit. Mm-hmm. And the conference has long served as an incubator for some of the media industry's most high profile deals. So he's basically there, it sounds like, shopping around, you know, these TV channels possibly.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. So that's going on. But what made me laugh was this other story. This one, I just love this. The New York Post. Bob Iger is stressed over cleaning up Disney's mess. I was like, are you kidding me? He caused most of it. So they're going on in this article. Now, keeping in mind, they said that, you know, what big problem with the streaming was the ridiculously low prices that was initiated by Iger.
Yeah.
Well, Disney's CEO Bob Iger has been telling associates that he's stressed from trying to fix the mess left by his hand-picked predecessor that I think wasn't picked by him. But that's
I don't think you look at that. You go back to the announcement, which dropped in it was February, right before the pandemic hit, and they knew the pandemic was coming because they had to shut. I think at that point they had shut down their foreign parks. And you look at Iger's face and you look at Chapek's face, and they both look like deer in the headlights. Like, yeah,
Iger looked like someone beat his dog.
Yep.
And Chapek looked like, oh crap, what am I in for? And I don't think it was him. I think it was the board because they called him Chapek for a reason because he would bring money and turn profit at the expense of quality.
Yep.
But he would do it. So I think that was more of a board choice than his choice.
And that's a short-term fix. Like, you can do that in the short term, but in the long term, Disney's brand, until the last 8 or 10 years, Disney's brand has been quality. It has been that you can charge a premium price for your services and your experiences because you had quality experiences.
Right, but now they can't because the Disney difference isn't what it used to be. But it was funny. The 72-year-old Iger has even been known to joke that he resumed the CEO job at the wrong time. You mean when the shit ran downhill and you have to be responsible for your own actions? You mean that time? Because a lot of the problems of the company you're cleaning up were things that you yourself did.
Yeah.
You made your own mess, walked away thinking, well, I'll leave it for the riffraff to clean. And now you came back and the mess is worse. And then you're like, I have to clean up everybody else's mess, but it was your mess all along.
They had a meme going around on Twitter, and it was from The Office. And it was like, when you break something, but fix it just enough so the next person thinks they broke it. Mm-hmm. That was Bob Iger. Like, he broke Disney. He overspent. And we
brought that up in the other article, too. The $71 billion in Fox was part of the reason why Disney's in trouble.
Yeah.
Who was that? Oh, that was Iger.
That was Iger.
God, I'm so tired. Except it didn't fall a full lot. Disney parks people, and people have been around Disney for years and covering Disney for years, were like immediately like, no, you're not going to blame this all on Chapek. Chapek did some stupid things. Don't get me wrong. And Chapek was a lot of why the parks and theme parks were going downhill before he was promoted to CEO. That is true. But a lot of the problems were under Iger and choices made by Iger. Now, to be fair, Disney Plus saved Disney when they had to shut everything else down.
Yeah,
so it did save Disney.
But you can't charge $7 forever or free forever when you're spending the amount of money they were spending, at least on the initial batch of Star Wars and Marvel shows. Then you can see the quality decline, the effect shots decline.
Yeah, because they were taking on too much too. Yeah. They didn't have the money. So they're talking about. He said the challenges are greater than I anticipated. So let's go down and see what they're gonna try to say about poor Bob. The disruption of the traditional TV business is most notable. Well, what did you think was going to happen when everything went to streaming, Bob? Yeah. And you were a part of that because you brought Disney Plus out. Then after Disney Plus was coming, then everybody else announced their streaming services. So you were kind of part of that movement, Bob, like a bowel movement.
Yeah, I know.
If anything, the disruption of the business has happened at a greater extent than I was even aware of.
Oh, come on. You cannot. He was the chairman. You cannot be that. I didn't know why.
He was still an advisor.
They said that he was basically pulling the strings the whole time. He was basically running.
Some of it, I think, yeah. Some of it, I don't think so.
But
yeah.
And Chapek was getting pissed because he wasn't allowed to run Disney the way he wanted to run it. And, then Bob, I had no idea. I had no idea that the company was in such bad shape. Oh, my God. What am I going to do?
They also said to be willing to sell ABC, FX, and National Geographic, which is interesting because they just gutted National Geographic's editorial. And they're just, and right after they start promoting more trips, their National Geographic branded trips.
Yeah, it would be, here's where it would be tricky, though, with ABC, because that's one of the networks, and that's where the FTC gets involved. Like, I don't think you can have, I could be wrong, but I don't think you can have, like, NBC or CBS buy ABC because they already have, there need to be competing broadcast networks. That's kind of one of the only thing they could do is basically like, you have NBC, you have like Comcast buy ABC and then just absorb ABC assets into NBC and dissolve.
You're going to have to absorb and then make it all under one umbrella. You can't call it two separate things. It's going to have to be, rolled into one even if you sold it. Interesting though, this is funny. According to a journal, Iger has reassured shareholders that Disney Plus would start turning a profit by September of next year. However, since day one, Disney Plus was supposed to turn a profit by 2024. So that's nothing new. I mean, investors were aware of that. It's going to start making money by next year. But since day one, you've said it wasn't going to turn a profit until 2024. I mean, nobody should be surprised by that. I'm not defending Iger. I'm just saying, he said that since the beginning. I mean, that's nothing. He's not saving anything. That's what the original target was.
Yeah.
That's nothing new there. That's not news. They keep going back to that, like, he's gonna champion this. I'm like, it was already gonna do that. That's always the timetable. He embarked on a massive $5.5 billion cutting spree.
Wasn't that Chapek first though? That Chapek?
No, that was no. Yes, Chapek said he was going to start having to make cuts, and they were going to put a task force together to determine where to cut. He said it first. Then they got rid of him and brought in Iger, and the employees were like, "Yay, Iger's here!" But he said from the first town hall, "We're still going to have to make cuts."
Yeah.
So I think it was the first town hall, but somewhere around there, he said, "Yeah, we're going to have to make cuts," and that's what they had to do because there was no way for Chapek being so bad. He came in and did the same thing Chapek was going to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like Chapek either. I think both of them suck. So they're talking he agreed to the restructuring to fend off a proxy fight from Nelson Peltz. Well, and they had no choice. I mean, he mentioned two big cuts before that. But they're going about poor Bob. Meanwhile, he has blamed much of what ails the House of Mouse on Chapek.
Of course.
According to the journal, he's especially critical of Chapek's moves to hike ticket prices at Disney theme parks in Florida and California.
They were doing that before Chapek was like all this. Okay, so those of you who have been watching the channel for a while know that
go to Disney for a while.
Go to Disney, but they know that we used to be, and we still are to some extent, theme park bloggers. You still have your blog.
I do.
But we used to go cover Disney a lot more extensively. We go down there, media, all that stuff, right? They started chasing the luxury audience, the one percenters. 2016, 2017. That's what they wanted. They wanted whales.
2017 is when they jacked the prices of everything, including the annual passes. 2017, it was 2017, 2018. That was under Bob Iger. He jacked up the theme park tickets significantly And even the annual passes, it's like 25% increase. It got so bad that like people who had like the pass that was across both parks and everything else were getting rid of their passes. People are unloading their passes because they're like, it's too expensive. That was under Iger. It was one of the most significant price hikes they had in a while.
Yeah.
And then he's the one who started charging to park at the hotels.
And that's when
he walked it back, but it was his choice.
So they'll blame Chapek because Chapek was in charge of the parks then, but he can't do anything without Bob Iger. And they were looking at the bottom line. They were constantly bragging about how their per capita spending per guest was through the roof. Christine McCarthy was like, this is great. We used to get $200 a person. Now we're getting $400 a person. PCAP is through the roof because they're charging so much.
Our attendance might be down, but our PCAP's really high. And they kept charging and charging more and more and more. And that's been ongoing for years. It was not just a Chapek and charge thing. And Chapek wasn't allowed to just go unilaterally, raise prices on theme parks without getting permission. This whole pass the buck is a load of shit. And like the other article does mention, a lot of the reasons that they don't have money and that they're in this position is because of they undercharge for streaming to undercut everyone. And then they were worried about building their numbers, and they spent too much money on Fox, and those both were Bob Iger.
Yeah.
I mean, when they started talking about doing ad sales for Disney Plus, I mean, that was Chapek who initiated that.
Well, Hulu, they've been pushing, like, we get emails. I don't know why, but we get emails to advertise on Hulu. They're like, you can advertise on Hulu for like $1,000 to start. And I'm like, why would we advertise on Hulu?
Some channel no one watches probably. So,
yeah, but they're
just like...
Yeah.
They're desperate. But a lot of the choices that he's now cleaning up were choices he made. The company is in a really bad place because they overspent on Fox. Fox was never worth that much money. It has caused a lot of the trouble. They never got enough out of it to make it worth it. And then they would have had so much more money on hand. And yes, Disney Plus saved the company when they had to shut down the parks. However, they would have had a lot more money in reserve if they hadn't spent it on Fox.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's all they poor Bob Iger has to clean up Bob Chapek's mess that Bob Iger actually was the one who made.
And they bought nothing. The thing that kills me about the Fox deal is they got nothing. They got what? Some people are like, well, I got the original Star Wars back. It's like, who cares? It's not worth it now.
You just deals with like places that it keeps streaming on there anyway, and they can't use it on something.
On TNT, they were on TNT.
Yeah, all the time. They've been for years. Yeah. And then they got a couple of properties that they some of the Marvel, ruined.
Yeah, the Marvel
X-Men,
rights back. They're
going to ruin.
And okay, so what else did you buy? Oh, Alien. Okay, well that's been ruined. Home Alone. Okay, that's been ruined. Yeah, Predator. Okay, that one's no good either. And
National Treasure.
Yeah, okay, we ruined that one too.
One.
So what else you got? You know what I'm saying? It's just like you've destroyed all of these brands. They've tried desperately, and I think the reason they were doing all these Disney Plus shows to try to recoup some of that to justify the expense of Fox. But I'm like, you bought a pig in a poke. The only reason he spent that much is he didn't want Comcast to get it. I don't think Comcast ever wanted it.
I think they just bid him up.
They knew it was worthless.
So they bid him up, so they overpaid. And they spent way too much money. And now Disney has to buy out Comcast share in Hulu for like at least $27 billion by early next year. And they don't know where they're going to get the money.
For this guy being one of the greatest CEOs.
And that deal was set up by Iger too, by the way.
Yeah, right. For this guy being one of the greatest CEOs of all time, he does not know how to play chess. Like Comcast was playing him. They're like, look, we're going to break Disney. We're going to run them out of money, and then we're going to kick their ass in the theme parks, and then they're going to have to come back to us in a couple of years, and we're going to run them out of more money. We're just going to run them out of money.
Their arrogance was their undoing.
Their undoing, and they knew it. That was their Achilles heel. It was like Bob Iger had to own everything. It's like, well, how much you want to pay? Because it's only worth maybe $5 billion total, and you spent $72 billion. Whap, 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 whap.
I know. And then he bought like Pixar for how much, and Marvel and Star Wars, and they did do great up until like before the pandemic. Yeah. But then they're all blaming on the pandemic. But is it the pandemic or is it Disney Plus? I think it's a matter of Disney Plus.
So Disney Plus, and we talked about this in another video too. Tubi was brilliant. So Rupert Murdoch, I don't know if those of you who follow the channel, you might know this. You probably know it anyway. Who knows?
He brings it up all the time.
I do bring it up all the time because it's brilliant. You want to talk about chess. Rupert Murdoch Rupert Murdoch had his own garage sale. He sold all the Fox crap he didn't want. He kept news, and he sold off all the old adult cartoons, and they started a whole new set to do new ones. So it was his garage sale. So they overpaid for Rupert Murdoch's garage sale. He took a fraction of what Disney spent on the Fox assets. I think it was like $400 or $500 million, went and bought Tubi which was already
built.
It was already built. All you had to do was
millions to build Disney Plus.
All you had to do, billion. I think it was a couple $1 billion.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. All you had to do with Tubi is just come in, and it was a fixer-upper. You just had to take all the old content out, put your Disney content on, but the framework was there. What was that one home renovation show you watched, Good Bones?
Yeah. It's what, for a while, but yes. And
it's what Elon Musk is doing with Twitter. He's like, he wanted to, rather than build your own social media app, you buy an existing one, and you just do some housekeeping and rebrand it, and you're good to go.
Well, but it's a fraction of the cost of
it's a fraction of the cost.
Yeah, used to get mad when I'd watch those shows because I'd watch those shows and then one of the rooms in the house would suddenly be under demolition. And he'd be like, what are you doing?
And you would start at one end of the house and you'd go through and you'd move the whole way through the whole house and you'd start back at the beginning again. And
not always. Anyway, I don't have to do that now, thank God. Anyway, so this is what's going on. It's just funny that now they're having to probably sell off some of these non-core assets, they're calling them, like ABC and Freeform and all that. And they might have to partner with somebody to keep ESPN because they just held those cuts ESPN. Then ESPN internally was cutting people. She said it was not related to the Disney cuts, but I think it probably was because they probably had numbers they had to hit and they weren't hitting them. So tough choices had to be made. So now Disney needs somebody to partner with them to keep ESPN going. And they're going to probably sell off these other channels. And what they're going to make off of those sales combined with the savings they have is nowhere near what they need to pay off Comcast. And they made an agreement under Bob Iger for a minimum price of what it'd be market value, no lower than. And that's why the bottom is 27 point whatever, $7 or $5 billion they had agreed on back under Iger initially when streaming was big and Disney's profits are through the roof. And $1 billion, how many 7 or 8 $1 billion movies that year?
Oh, yeah.
So he was making these deals, and now it's all crumbling, and it's biting him in the ass. And they're gonna, if they have $17 billion for Walt Disney World, which they don't.
They don't.
They're gonna have to take it out and use it to stave off for the Comcast thing.
The only thing, honestly, that could save them at this point, it doesn't matter what kind of course correction they do, because one, Bob Iger is 72 years old. You know, realistically, how much longer can he stay in charge of Disney?
Well, apparently till, 2026?
Yeah, so we're still talking 74, 75 years old by the time he steps down, right? If he steps down. But you can't fix this. We talked about this with Star Wars. Like, the damage is so extensive and the debt is so great that you would need somebody with really deep pockets to just come in and buy everything. That is the only way to fix it. And that's why this Apple buying Disney rumor keeps coming up again and again and again, because for Apple, it's changing the couch cushions.
Well, here's the kicker. They might have to sell it to somebody or start selling off bigger things because they have to pay for this other stuff. Plus, we don't know how much money they owe in debt from the pandemic.
They took a bunch of loans out during the pandemic.
And some of them were due within like a year or two, and some of them were due like 30, 50 years later. So we don't know much that debt, if they paid that off, and if they didn't, how much they have left of that they're paying on top of all this stuff.
Yeah, so it's pretty bad, guys. I mean, to go from being on, and this happens so often with companies. I mean, we watch a lot of documentaries like the Food That Built America and the Toys That Built America, all these, and you see like the rise and fall of these companies, and they get to a point where they're so damn big that they have nowhere else to go. Like, you can't get any bigger, so you topple over.
Real quick, here's some of the comments on this. He blames his predecessor, Chapek, on high ticket prices at Disney's theme parks. Has Iger lowered the ticket price since he took over? And if he has, it wasn't enough of vacation goers were seeking alternatives to Disney. Buy a ticket for $170 times 4, another $125 for food. Yeah, and then add Genie Plus and everything else.
Yeah.
They're talking about the Avatar ride can have a 5-hour wait. I don't think it's so much so now, but it has.
Pro tip. Go. I'm gonna kick myself.
Go ahead, do it and tell people.
I'm gonna tell people. If you go, say the park is closing at 8 o'clock and you go the last hour, get in line. Don't go first. Everybody runs for Avatar first.
Go there first if you're there early.
If you're there early. If you go to Animal Kingdom at night, go the last hour. Get in line because they will push you through as fast as they can. But also, if you're already in line, even if it's like 7:45, they will let you ride. Now,
right.
You might miss your bus. You might have to get a lift. I don't know.
They let the buses run for like an hour.
They run for like an hour after.
But a Lyft or Uber is not hard, and it's expensive and easy to walk to the loading area. But if you go at the end too, when everybody else is running for that ride, you can get on all the other stuff pretty quickly because no one's on it. Like, you can go to the safari when the animals are out because it's still cool.
Yeah.
You can go out to go ride the river journey.
That's
you can
awesome
get on,
at night.
5 or 6 other rides the time it would take in the
Cali is awesome. man. You've never ridden Cali, and I took the
didn't.
kids
I
one
got
time.
sick.
They had all kinds of mist and lights, and it's really cool. But yeah, no, do that, because we have gotten on. I don't think we've used a fast pass for Flight of Passage since it first opened, because we figured that trick out. We're like, oh, we'll just go to Animal Kingdom at the end because it's too damn hot anyway.
Well, there's no way to not have to use, well, what's Fast Pass is now Genie Plus. I mean, there's no way you're not going to have to use it at least once. You know, you can, but if you want to try, you can ride everything if you're smart about how you use that and how you line up and where you go. You can do quite a bit, which I've got it down to a science. So we're able to do a lot. But anyway, here's back to the comments. Only problem here is current Disney board of directors and CEO. They approved and caused the problem, refused to acknowledge it, and now continue to reward Iger with 2 more years to destroy the company. Yes, exactly. It's what we've been saying. Disney went woke, so we know Disney will go broke. Okay. The board appears to be controlled by the institutional investors. Bob has inherited the mess he made himself. He can't blame Chapek anymore. True. Bob Iger's one that ruined Disney. Well, it has something to do with it. Okay, we're not going to sit here and just harass people about being, trans or whatever like that. But I mean,
it's like
financially speaking.
So it is a multitude of problems, right? Do I think that some of their political decisions have played into people turning away from Disney? Absolutely. Absolutely.
I do. I do think to some point, families are like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, no, I do. Now, is that everything? No, I think they set the dominoes up years ago, and then that just helped knock everything over,
I agree. Anyway, we're going to wrap this up.
We're going to wrap this up. So there you go. Disney having a yard sale. We'll see how bad it gets. We'll see how desperate they are. So please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Go to piratesandprincesses.net for objective Disney news, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Help support the channel. Go to thereef.support and get early access to podcasts, videos, and other content. That's thereef.support.